a finalist project based on the NHS failures, and we had a few.
You're having what, sorry?
A finalist project. So I'm in my third year of studies in universities.
Yes,
and that's
yes.
basically a final year project we have to present, and it's based on the NHS failures, and we've seen that you actively fighting against all those issues concerning the NHS, and we have just a few maybe basic questions for you that you could help us with.
I'll try, yeah.
No worries.
Carry on.
And if it's noisy, tell us. And let me ask you the first question. So basically, the first question is pretty standard. We're just wondering what are in your opinion, the main causes for the failures in the Staffordshire Hospital? Because basically that's the main points, basically.
The main failures of Midstaffs is it's a small district general hospital,
okay,
and it recruits from a small area. And over the years, they've become insular.
Okay.
So they only recruited. One of the things that one of the new chief executives said was he'd never been in a hospital where they had so many family members.
Okay.
So you'd have mum, dad, brothers, sisters.
Sure.
That's one of the problems. The other reason is that they never recruited people from outside, so there was no new ideas coming in. And over the years, they started to accept low standards of care.
Yes.
As we trace the failings back to 1999, so it wasn't something that happened overnight. We know for a fact that in 2002, the Royal College of Nursing spoke at their conference and spoke about shortage of staff.
Shortage, okay, yes.
Yeah, in 2002. In 2004, the inspectors at the time were called they were called CHI, and Community Health Inspectorate or something like that. They went in and they found poor standards of care, and that was in 2004. Okay. So it's been long-standing. Then in 2005, they introduced the concept of foundation trusts. And I think that was the only way at that point, because at the point there, 2005, Midstaffs was struggling financially, and it was also struggling clinically.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the only way, this is the managers, they also recruited inexperienced managers. So they had inexperienced managers, inexperienced board members. And I think at that point, the way they thought they could save the hospital was to go for this foundation trust. Because then they're autonomous. I don't know if you know about the foundation trust guy, you know, what it means. But basically it means that a hospital is a business.
Okay.
So it can borrow money.
Mm-hmm.
From the stock market. It can do all sorts of things. Okay. It's like a business. And I think they saw that as the panacea. I thought they saw that would save the hospital.
Okay.
But what they did in order to get the foundation trust status, they slashed the nursing staff.
Yes.
Which is a common act within the NHS. To try and save money because it's the biggest resource, mm-hmm. But it's also the worst thing they can do because it impacts on patient care.
Sure.
And I think that's what happened at Midstaffs.
Okay. No, it seems. I mean, we've read a lot about it, and obviously, apparently, training and staff was a big issue there. We just wanted to know if you've seen any kind of improvements since, for example, 2007. Have the hospital made some changes? I don't know. What's your opinion? Because you probably have a better view of it than we do.
Yeah, we think the hospital has come a long way from the way it was in 2007 when I was in there. But for the amount of resources and speciality that has gone in there, it hasn't improved the way it should have.
Okay.
Now the reason why we say that is we asked in 2009 when the Healthcare Commission report came out was that the hospital closed and reopened ward by ward board after competency checks on all of the staff. We asked the Secretary of State at the time, Alan Johnson. We asked Peter Carter. We asked what's Unison's rep's name?
Don't worry about it.
I can't remember the
Don't worry
chief
about it.
exec of Unison anyway, the nursing union. We asked them all, we asked everybody, we asked the chief nurse, Christine Beasley, to send in a team of specialist nurses and doctors to work alongside our doctors and nurses, because they hadn't been trained properly, or, you know, they hadn't been given training in years. I think if they'd have done that, we could have changed the culture the way we needed to. But I think what's happened at Mid-Staffs, we've still got aspects, pockets of the poor culture that was going on all along. We heard about a month ago one of the nurses that had been struck off, the one who'd bullied Helen E. Donnelly in A&E.
Okay.
One of the sisters who was, did you hear about that? She was
I didn't.
the racist nurse. She was
Okay.
calling doctors, Asian doctors, suicide bombers, and
Really?
leaving old people to die on the trolleys because they were too old. And a woman who'd had an abortion, a termination, she came in bleeding, and she said, leave her. She shouldn't have done that to a child.
What's the name of?
This went,
What's her name? Do you have a name?
what was her name, Jen? Yes. Can you remember her first name? White is a surname. We
White.
can't remember. White and Turner, the case was. There was two
Okay.
A&E nurses.
We'll find something. Okay.
I can't remember.
No worries.
Sharon White.
Sharon Wright. Okay.
Or Sharon Turner. It's Turner and White, anyway. It's just, if you Google it, if you Google
Yeah.
Sharon Turner and White, NMC, because what happened, we found out, this was November, I think, or December. No, it wasn't. It was January.
Okay.
This came through. They were struck off. But it came out that White is employed as one of the managers at the hospital now. So they were arguing that they didn't have to get rid of her. She wasn't doing a nursing job. You see, that's the
Yes.
culture. You know, why would you want to keep somebody like that? You wouldn't.
Obviously. Yeah.
So, and recently, in the last, I think it's the last 3 weeks, the NMC defended them in an appeal, bizarrely.
Okay.
But there we are. That's the joys of having a Royal College and a union, you see. It just doesn't work.
I see. So, wait.
So it's improved greatly.
It's improved.
It's improved greatly. But these district hospitals really are a thing of the past. We need to be innovative with them now of what we can do with them. Because as Mid-Staffs, it was trying to be jack of all trades, master of none. Do you understand
Yes,
that?
yes.
Trying to do everything,
Yeah.
and they were doing some things well, but doing some things badly.
So there's still a problem of culture, you say. There's still a problem of openness as well, I guess, transparency.
Yeah.
Okay. If should I 2 seconds? I'm just looking at the questions we have. Should we ask this? So basically, we're just wondering what's your opinion about education and training, how it could be, improved in the hospital, because that's, as you said before, obviously a big issue. I mean, you said they hire only people from the regions themselves. What do you think? What steps could be made to improve education and training?
Well, what they've done now, you see, they've been taken over by another hospital. I think these, where they link up with other hospitals,
Okay.
these small district hospitals need to link up with the specialist hospitals, the training hospitals, and revolve the staff around.
Okay.
Revolve the staff around to spread the good practice. And it also stops this culture, this power within a ward. You know, if staff are moving on, I know they can't do it all the time, but I think it helps to stop that bad culture setting in if staff are moving around the different areas. So I think that'll play a big part in mid-staffs, because it'll be bringing in fresh blood, it'll be bringing in skills and other specialities. But I think what we heard at the public inquiry was that really the nurse training places, it's really bums on seats. So they've needed to fill those places, and they've taken on students who aren't necessarily what we want the NHS to be. We've recruited students for what the NHS has become.
Okay.
And I believe that the NHS has lost its way, and it's become a bullying culture, right down to the ward, you know?
Yes, I understand.
The priority is now what the Department of Health, what Number 10 wants is a good news story, and not necessarily what's needed to make patients better. The priority has been targets at all costs. What we need to do is to turn the NHS the right way up. So it's the front line that lead. Nurses that set the priorities. Because when I was on the ward, it was the doctors and the nurses on the ward that knew what my mum needed to make her better. But that wasn't the priority. The priority was what the board said was the priority on that ward. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. Okay, so do you wanna Philippa has a question for you.
Yes. Do you think there's an overall dissatisfaction with the salary and the workload a nurse has to do, and so there's an increased stress? Does this have to do is this a big factor also resulting, causing the problems?
I think the staffing has had a huge impact. I think we've allowed nurses to work on wards that we wouldn't allow any other profession, but they've had to just get on with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think this culture, it's not just at mid-staffs, it's the whole of the NHS, and it's bullied not only the staff, but it's bullied the patients as well, all the way down. So we've made staff work in these conditions. It's bound to have had an impact on the way nurses are, but it's up to leaders. It's up to leaders on those wards to make sure that the staff are well cared for, because we can't expect staff to care for us if we don't care for our staff.
So you think that the leaders are not yet as developed because of, for example, lack of training, or do you think that the leaders don't have the power to actually create a structure or to motivate the employees, or do you think it's a skill leakage of the leaders?
I think the NHS lacks leadership skills. I think we've got too many managers and not enough leaders.
Okay.
I think we've promoted people above their capabilities, and I think we've promoted people above their capabilities because it's a club, the NHS, and if your face fits and you'll keep quiet, you'll get promoted. Those who speak out and speak up for patients tend to be the ones that aren't promoted, aren't made leaders. But they're the ones that we need to be trying to identify and putting them in leadership positions. But I think as well as that, what has happened with nursing is it's the nursing unions. They have lost their focus, and they're more interested, the leaders of these nursing unions, Dave Prentice, I was thinking of, the chief exec of Unison, they're more focused on their own, looking after themselves, instead of looking after the nurses. When did we last see them standing up and saying, staff, we haven't got enough nurses on these wards? The nursing unions haven't said anything about that, although we had the Keogh reviews, which all identified poor staffing levels.
Yeah.
So I think nurses have been let down by the nursing unions.
Okay.
Yeah, they've been far too close to the management, the nursing unions have, and not close enough to the front line, to the nurses that they should be representing. So what's happened, you've got a gap where nurses have been silenced because they haven't had any support at all. So whereas a nurse's role should be to speak up for the patient, which is in their contract, that's their professional responsibility to speak up for the patient. I think their responsibility has become to watch their own backs. And it's created this culture within the NHS, the bullying culture, I call it, the culture that needs to change.
Okay.
So there are no facilities like, I don't know, common rooms or any extra facilities provided for nurses outside of their work? Or is there anything they, like many companies are doing, like outside, I don't know, for example, common rooms or free lunch or similar activities to create a culture? There's nothing the NHS is providing?
I don't think so. I think there are pockets of good practice out there, and we've got some good nurse leaders, but we haven't got enough yet.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Just a last question. We've obviously heard about your mother's story, and we were wondering if it was kind of a one-off case, or if similar things happened, not necessarily in Staffordshire Hospital, but in the NHS in general. If this is a one-off case, or if it happens quite often, and if it did, if you have, I don't know, names, case studies we could look for, similar to your mother's story.
I've heard of absolutely hundreds
Hundreds.
and hundreds and hundreds of similar cases. I probably receive about 3 calls a day telling me the same thing happened to their loved one. Mm-hmm. It's been going on throughout the NHS for years, but it's been hidden. And it isn't until recently that people have been allowed to speak about it. It's all been hidden all along. If you just Google the mid-staff's cases, you will see possibly 40 different cases just from the one hospital. And they're just people, if you can imagine, they're just people who have been strong enough to speak to the press. Because that's not an easy thing to do. When you're grieving, to speak to the press. Just speaking to anybody often is really traumatic about what's happened to your loved one. But if you look at any of the Keogh Review hospitals, just Google the particular hospitals, you'll find individual cases from there, particularly the ones who have been through the coroner's court as well, and they're the ones that have already spoken out.
Sure. That's it. Yeah. I guess we don't have any more questions. We really appreciate your time and your help.
Thank you.
And we wish you all the best for your association.
Thank you, Erin, and you, Philippa. I wish you both too. One thing that I am hearing,
yes,
I am hearing more positive feedback coming.
Okay.
So the culture is starting to change.
Okay.
But it's going to take a long time. So I'll leave you on that positive note.
Sure. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you very much, Judy. You're
welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.